The floor is yours, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everybody. We will dive right in, and I will call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearing of September 7th, 2023. Mr. Lemming, would you please take a roll call?
Certainly. Would the representative from the Public Works Department please state his or her name for the record?
Yasha Franklin Hahn.
Property Management Department?
Joseph Callahan.
Transportation Department?
Amy Gordon.
Inspectional Services Department?
Ronan.
Oh, one more time, Brian.
Brian Ronan.
Great, thank you. Disabilities Commission?
Patricia Mendez.
And I don't believe we have anybody from Water and Sewer, but if we have somebody, please speak up. No, no Water and Sewer. Well, we do have quorum though.
All right, thank you very much, Todd. First item today is hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on August 24th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of August 24th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Any opposed or abstain? So moved.
Brian Ronan, ISD.
Yeah, you abstain. Okay.
That's fine.
We're good? All right, on to public hearing number 1 on a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Roxbury and Boston proper, consisting of curb realignment, roadway and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street lighting infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, hydrants, landscaping, green stormwater infrastructure, driveway curb cuts, and raised crosswalks. Harrison Avenue at Northampton Street and at East Lenox Street, Northampton Street at Harrison Avenue and at Tremont Street, East Lenox Street at Harrison Avenue, Tremont Street at Northampton Street. Was new business on August 24th as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Harrison Avenue and Northampton Street, Harrison Avenue and East Lenox Street, Tremont Street and Northampton Street, Lower Roxbury, 5 sheets dated August 31st, 2023. Would the proponents please introduce themselves and their affiliations, give us a brief overview of the project and anything that has changed since your new business hearing, and after that we'll open up the floor for commissioners and then members of the public.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is John Monticelli with the Boston Transportation Department. I'm joined by our consultants at Howard Stein Hudson here. As you indicated in the list through, we have 2 full intersection reconstructions on Northampton Street at Tremont and at Harrison Ave, working to reconstruct all of the pedestrian ramps to be directional and improve the accessibility, raise crosswalks across Northampton Street in both circumstances, and creating space for depaving and green infrastructure. Since last meeting, we have worked with the Public Works street lighting team to incorporate some significant street lighting improvements, underground conduit runs, and infrastructure for them to come in and install the above ground proper luminaires and poles. So we're setting up our colleagues in Public Works for some improvements later down the line. The Harrison and Lenox intersection is much simpler. We are reconstructing all 8 of the ramps to be directional and accessible. We are not proposing any raised elements or depaving elements there, but just to make sure that we are meeting compliance. Overall, this is one of 2 parts of the Lower Roxbury Neighborhood Transportation Safety Improvements Plan. We have been engaged with neighborhood stakeholders, advisory groups, as well as the counselor's office for debriefing. I'll pass it over to Taryn Wong at Howard Stein Hudson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Taryn Wong with Howard Stein Hudson. Thank you, John Monticelli, for the introduction. Yes, as we went to new business 2 weeks ago, we received a few comments, one particularly from accessibilities about indicating on the plans the retaining of compliant ramps. We have implemented the set of plans submitted and dated August 31st, 2023. We've also, as John Monticelli explained, implemented comments we received from Public Works Department street lighting, and have provided those underground facilities and have put them on the plans again, dated August 31st, 2023. And we have implemented comments we received from Boston Water and Sewer on some of the drainage design at Harrison Avenue and Northampton Street, and we've implemented those on the same updated set of plans. And these comments we received at new business 2 weeks ago, and they're all within the updated plans.
Is somebody able to share the plans just so that they're available on the recording of this?
Yes, I can do
I don't know
that.
if Taryn, you have those handy.
So here.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep, so here on the plans I was
Thanks, Brendan.
discussing, we've implemented the Boston Water and Sewer comments and design. They've directed us to do so, moving some hydrants and adding additional drain manholes here. And also on these plans too, you can see the inclusion of new street lighting, control cabinets, pole boxes, and proposed locations for streetlights. The same applies to here at the second intersection of Harrison Ave at East Lenox. Similarly with the Public Works Department street lighting comments. And lastly, at the third intersection here at Tremont Street at Northampton, we have also implemented Public Works street lighting comments.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
I'll take this opportunity to remind the public, if you wish to ask questions or add testimony, please use the raised hand function at the bottom of your screen. At this time, I have no comments and I do not see anybody from the public, so I think we're all set.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs in Harrison Ave, Northampton Street, East Lenox Street, and Tremont Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioners.
On to public hearing number 2 on a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the adoption of a city policy concerning the review and approval processes for electric vehicle charging infrastructure within the city's public rights of way. New business from August 24th. Would the presenters please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us a brief overview as well as any changes since your new business hearing?
Excellent, thanks, Chief. Matt Warfield, the new Mobility Director in the Boston Transportation Department in the Policy and Planning Division. I believe a final draft of this was released since our last hearing, though I don't believe many major changes were made. But I'm happy to talk through what this is, add a little bit more context, and then happy to answer any questions. But so essentially, this is for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in the public right-of-way that are owned, operated, and managed by the city or its authorized contractors. For most of these installations, we'll be working with Eversource through their Make Ready program, which is a statewide program that provides, or a program within their jurisdictions that provides design, engineering, and construction services for EV charging projects. For other projects, we will work with a professional and licensed engineering firm and contractor on the design, engineering, and construction. These stations will be available for both public access, so they'll be publicly accessible charging stations with the goal of providing charging to folks who live in multi-unit dwellings, condos, spaces that do not have access to off-street parking. And these will also be charging stations that provide power to our city-owned fleet vehicles. So there will be some right-of-way charging for that. The locations for these installations are chosen based on a set of criteria that includes sidewalk width, parking regulations, accessibility, and about 20 other metrics. But beyond that, we will work with the Office of Neighborhood Services, other city departments, to communicate with members of the community, stakeholders, and elected officials before finalizing any locations where stations will be installed. And of course, we'll work with any city departments on the review and approval of the plans, and also support the administrative review process throughout.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
No, I want to thank everyone who helped work on this policy. I think it's a really good initiative, and Matt has done a lot of good work on this, and the law department, and everybody else who has had a hand in this. Appreciate all that.
Indeed, I'll echo that. Thanks, and it's an exciting development as we look to increase electric vehicle adoption in Boston. It's great to see us making sure that we have thoughtful but efficient review processes around the installation of those stations that will be necessary for that transition. So thank you very much for that. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 2?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the adoption of a city policy concerning electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much. All right, that concludes the public hearing section of our agenda. On to our new business. New business item number 1, Melcher Street, Necco Street, South Boston, specific repairs, and a joint petition by AREMA Region number 74 LLC, AREMA Region number 68 LLC, and NECO TRS LLC. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves and their affiliations and give us an overview of what is being proposed?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm an attorney with Mintz here in Boston, and I'm representing the 3 entities you just named, all of which are affiliates of Alexandria Real Estate Equities, the nation's largest developer of life sciences buildings. The improvements that are before you relate to the intersection of Melcher Street, a public way, and Necco Street, a private way open to public travel in the Four Point Channel neighborhood of Boston, and will provide an accessible route to the waterfront. With me is John Moser from Niche and Naomi Mayu from National Development. John is going to put up a rendering so you can get a context of what it is that we're talking about. This project is occasioned by the construction of 15 Necco Street, which is this building in the background. It is a 12-story, approximately 316,000 square foot life sciences building that will be occupied by Eli Lilly as a lab, research and development and office facility. In front of it is the already rehabilitated 5 Necco Street building. The intersection that you see with the blue car is the intersection we're talking about. It is right at Melcher Street and Necco. And what we will be doing is a series of specific repairs to bring it into accessibility compliance. And so I'm going to turn it over to John to speak about the specifics. And just for your information, the proponent is the 15 Necco developer. The co-proponents are other affiliates of Alexandria who happen to own Necco Street. So that's why you've got multiple parties involved. John, I'll leave it to you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Just to reintroduce myself, John Moser with VHB. I am the civil engineer for the project. What we're proposing here at Melcher Street and Necco Street is a raised crosswalk and 2 new pedestrian ramps that are partially within the public way. The work will, as Rebecca mentioned, create an accessible path from the Summer Street Bridge to the Harbor Walk, which does not exist today, and the project is proposing the crosswalk to be raised as part of the required off-site mitigation by BPDA, which will provide a safer pedestrian access and help with resiliency in the area. Are there any questions or comments?
Commissioners? All right, hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
Just as a matter of clarification, this project may sound familiar. It's because it appeared under last hearing's new business agenda. There was an issue with some of the legal advertisements, which necessitated the project reappear today. So that's why you're seeing them again.
All right, hearing no other comments, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on September 21st?
We will.
All
And my
right.
apologies for
excellent.
misidentifying John. Sorry about that, John.
No problem.
All right, well, we'll see you back in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
On to new business 2, Copley Square, Boylston Street, Dartmouth Street, St. James Avenue, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by the City of Boston Parks and Recreation Department. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through what is being proposed?
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Bea Chatfield, and I am a project manager with Boston Parks and Recreation Department, and I am here representing the renovation of Copley Square Park. I'm here with Sasaki today. We've got, I think, 3 members of the design team, and Zach Crisco is going to be doing some presentation. We are talking about the full reconstruction of Copley Square Park, which includes the fountain, all paving, planting, lighting, drainage, and electrical systems. We're going to be installing new street trees, planters, and new pavement along the right-of-way area. We started our project outreach in 2021 and concluded it in that same year. We have been developing the design since then, and we just started construction recently in July of 2023, and we anticipate the park opening in fall of 2024. Throughout this process, we've been coordinating with various stakeholders, community groups, public entities, and city departments. We've had a number of conversations specifically with the MBTA and BTD after our initial submission for this. So I'm anticipating that we have some questions today, so I'll pass it off to Zach and he can walk you through the presentation. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zach Crisco. I'm a principal civil engineer at Sasaki, working with Parks on this project. Can you all see my screen now? We have a brief presentation here, and then we'll walk through the PIC plan that was submitted. So we began working with Parks in 2020. As Bea mentioned, we had a very extensive public outreach process with multiple thousand folks engaged throughout the course of that project, including from Boston, but also the surrounding communities. And this is the vision that ultimately was landed upon for a renewed Copley Square. It imagines improving the connections between the major cultural destinations in and around Copley Square, and then forefronting the trees that exist there and putting in a series of systems to protect those. And so we're adding planters along a series of existing trees on either side of the street to protect the compaction of the tree root systems, and then introducing what will be a new sort of iconic raised platform element in the square that will be perched up about 18 inches above grade, that again will remove foot compaction from the set of trees in the center of the square that were, from the public outreach process, seen as one of the major amenities that folks wanted to stay. We're also adjusting the location of the lawn, which is sort of where my cursor is here today, and pushing it closer to Trinity Church, which allows for a little bit of buffer zone from the activities of the square, from the church itself, and then creating a plaza that can be a host of farmers markets, events, and then eventually when Dartmouth Street is shut down at times can spill out onto Dartmouth Street, so it feels like one continuous space. We are protecting in place the kiosks that exist at the square and making renovations to the fountain, but the fountain is largely staying in place. So that's a pretty high level overview of what's happening within the square itself. We have a site plan, oops, skipped ahead of me here. A site plan which is showing that same set of moves. So the lawn has now moved closer to Trinity, the main plaza in the center of the square, the raised grove, and then a series of paving in and around the square that are really matching the intent of some of the buildings in the area, trying to be sensitive to the materials at Trinity and then the surrounding blocks. And then a few renderings of what this project will look like once constructed, really trying to create a flexible space that is easy for parks to maintain and can support a variety of events from small daily gatherings to larger events. So we thought we would just walk through the plan that was submitted and as Dee mentioned, been coordinated with a number of folks. And again, focusing on what's happening in the public right of way. I'm going to try to zoom in here if I can. And I will just quickly walk through, the perimeter of the square. So here at the intersection of Boylston Street and Clarendon Street, we're largely keeping the sidewalk untouched in this zone, aside from providing new cast iron detectable warning plates and the handicap accessible ramps. All of the ramps on the square have been surveyed, and those that were determined to be in compliance with accessibility guidelines are being kept, and those that are not are being replaced. And so these in this case are in compliance and being kept. There is a project that is being led by Public Works Department to make improvements to Boylston Street itself, and specifically the northern side of the sidewalk. And so the companion ramp in that case would be constructed as part of that Public Works project. Within the sidewalk itself, we are providing a new amenity zone, which would be a set of porous pavers, and then concrete paving. That entire zone is 12 feet wide. The amenity zone is 2.5 feet wide. There's 7 foot wide of concrete paving, and then a porous brick pan band that will extend into the square. That's really supporting the existing trees on site. And so that's a pretty typical section of what's happening through this zone. We are largely keeping in place the amenities that exist in the zone. So the light poles and other features will stay there. And as we move further down Boylston Street, you can see that sort of typical section occurring with amenity zone, concrete paving, and then the brick porous paving. As we get to the intersection with Dartmouth Street, we are making a number of improvements here, tightening up the radii at this intersection, which was the request of Public Works and others, to a 15-foot radii. So we're taking out the existing curb, replacing it with new curb, reconstructing handicap ramps, and then adding a new pedestrian traffic signal at this location right here. And then as we move down Dartmouth Street, you can see a number of the existing and proposed bike racks here. We also had some along Boylston Street. We're largely keeping in place the existing brick paving along Dartmouth Street, and so we're staying out of that as part of the construction process and protecting in place most of the amenities that exist along Dartmouth. Once we get to St. James, we come back to our new concrete paving profile. So all this paving will be new. We've coordinated with traffic and lighting on a series of improvements that are happening to the light poles in this area. So many of the light poles are further off the curb and are being relocated to the sort of amenity zone type space along St. James Avenue at their request. We are also proposing to move the existing MBTA bus stop shelters a little bit further back into the site within what will be a new tree and porous paving zone. So those are shown here. And we'll have better accessibility to the curb line, but we'll also create a more open flow path for pedestrians who are walking through that space. And then as we move further down St. James, we are proposing to make some minor adjustments to the Trinity access curb that exists here. The width is staying the same. We're shifting it by a couple feet to better align with where their drive or access is right now. So that's a relatively high-level overview. I should note, I didn't mention along Boylston Street, we also are proposing to, again, move that bus stop shelter back into the site slightly and are providing an accessible concrete pad for loading and unloading of the buses. So I hit that pretty quickly, and happy to talk more if there are questions.
Thank you very much, commissioners.
I've got a question. Any foreseeable impact with, say, the Boston Marathon?
Yeah, we have been coordinating with the marathon, and they will not be in the square in 2024. They are looking at the possibility of putting, I mean, they usually put their tent, one of their medical tents, I think, in Dartmouth Street. And so we're trying to see if that's going to work with our timing. Because right now we have fencing out by our property line, and they usually take up more than that portion of the sidewalk along the western edge of Copley. So, but they're aware that they won't have space in the park in 2024.
Okay, thank you.
The northeast corner of the park, where we have the pedestrian ramps, has there been coordination with Public Works Engineering about ensuring that the location of the ramps is appropriate to match the other side? There's a misalignment now between the ramps and the crosswalk striping that's hopefully going to get fixed.
Yes, we are very aware of that misalignment, and that is part of their plan here to correctly align these ramps and then redo the striping in the street, which is also, it's a little bit confusing as it stands today.
Excellent. And the Public Works team is going to take care of the signals and any street lighting impacts as well as part of that?
Yep. Signals, street lighting, striping, yeah. That's our understanding. Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions, comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
No, there are a handful of minor plan revisions that are going to be needed for their public hearing in 2 weeks, but the team is aware of it and they've committed to making those changes.
All right, hearing nothing else and seeing no raised hands, would you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on the 21st?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. We are excited to see you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, on to new business number 3, Seaport Boulevard at Pier 4 Boulevard, South Boston, highway discontinuance, vertical discontinuance on a set of joint petitions by Seaport G Title Holder LLC and the Boston Redevelopment Authority, DBA, the Boston Planning and Development Agency. The presenters please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and let us know what is being proposed here.
Sure. Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Shadi Sanchez from Bolson Stores. I'm here on behalf of Seaport G Title Holder, the owner and developer of Block G of the Seaport Square project, and the co-petitioner on the next 2 petitions. I'm joined by Amy Preen with W Development on behalf of the Block G developer, as well as John Schmidt from Niche Engineering. The BPA is also a co-petitioner on these petitions, so I'm also joined by Maggie Pitts-Dilly of the BPA. The petitions before you today respectfully request approval of a discontinuance from the Seaport Boulevard layout of parcel G2, located at the intersection of Pier 4 Boulevard and Seaport Boulevard as shown on this plan. The next petition also shows requests a vertical discontinuance of the below grade portions of Seaport Boulevard layout known as parcel G1, also at the intersection. And these portions to be discontinued will accommodate a subsurface garage within the below-grade discontinued portions of G1 and G2, and a building corner within the above-grade discontinued portion of G2. I'm launching into a little bit of history here to contextualize our present petitions. We're so excited to be here today because the actions before you represent the culmination of a historic plan memorialized in certain land exchange agreements with the BPDA, which was designed to complete the street grid arising from the Central Artery Tunnel project and set the boundaries of the Block G development site and the adjacent Block F development site. The actions represent the final items in those historic agreements and conclude what we started to accomplish back in 2016 when we were last before the commission on these items. In 2016, and as shown on this slide, the commission approved vertical discontinuances from Pier 4 Boulevard, the below grade portion starting at an elevation of 13.4 and down to an elevation of minus 86.6, as well as a vertical discontinuance on the next slide, John, from Seaport Boulevard at the same elevations. The actions before you today for the discontinuances of parcels G1 and G2 were contemplated and shown on those 2016 plans. They essentially continue the strip of previously discontinued area along the eastern boundary of Block G. And at the time, in 2016, G1 and G2 were actually owned by MassDOT. In the years since, MassDOT has actually conveyed those parcels to the city, and the BPDA will vote next week to take the parcels and convey it to Seaport G Title Holder LLC. And this is all in line with the historic plans and agreements. So the approval of the petitions before you, together with the BPDA actions, which we just described, will essentially complete the boundaries of the Block G development site in relation to the adjacent streets, Seaport and Pier 4 Boulevard. And again, will sort of represent the final action under these historic land exchange agreements. I'll now turn it over to John Schmidt to give you an overview of the plans for you today.
Thank you. John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. So the first petition is parcel G1, which consists of 57 square feet. It's approximately 13 feet by 4.5 feet. And as stated, it will begin at elevation 13.4 to elevation minus 86.6. And this will allow, as the three develop, it will allow shallow utilities like street lighting and other things to occur above the garage, but below the sidewalk grade. And this is the same dimensions that were approved in 2016 for the parcels that were previously submitted. The second parcel is parcel G2, which consists of 179 square feet. And this is basically a complete discontinuance, as from heaven to hell, as they like to say, and it would fall within the building itself. So that's pretty much the gist of the proposal before you. Any questions?
The drain line that's in the discontinuance?
So the drain line was also part of the discontinuance in 2016, and we're committed to relocating that drain line as this prior to the construction of this parcel.
Commissioners, other questions, comments? PIC staff, members of the public?
All set on this one.
All right, easy enough. Will you guys be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on September 21st?
We will.
We will.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll finalize this once and for all in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much. See you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
On to new business item number 4, 88 North Washington Street, Boston proper, vertical discontinuance on a joint petition by 88 NOWA LLC and the Boston Redevelopment Authority, DBA, Boston Planning and Development Agency. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what is being proposed?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Attorney Matt Eckel with Fletcher Tilton on behalf of the applicant. Also on with me this morning are Maggie Pittstilly from the BPDA, as they are co-petitioners, and Scott Kirkwood from the development team. We are here this morning on a joint petition by 88 NOWA LLC and the Boston Planning and Development Agency seeking a vertical discontinuance along North Washington Street adjacent to 88 North Washington Street, which sits at the corner of North Washington and Valenti Way. By way of brief background, this project did go through the BPDA Article 80 small project review process and was approved by the BPDA board. It also received all approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeal. The lot itself contains 2,188 square feet, and the project was approved as a boutique hotel, which you can see on the screen now we're rendering. This rendering is actually a view from Valenti Way. Just to bring the commission up to speed, we will be coming back with a companion case for Valenti Way. That's actually a co-petition with MassDOT that's lagged slightly behind this application. However, in working in conjunction with the BPDA, our hope is to get on their board hearing, which we're currently scheduled for September 14th, which necessitated us coming before you today with just the North Washington portion. Just to give a little bit more background, the hotel will contain a lobby, lounge, and building services on the ground level and hotel rooms on floors 2 through 8. The discontinuance area is proposed to begin at the second floor, as you can see in the picture, approximately 15 feet above the sidewalk, and will extend up approximately 74 feet to the top of the 8th floor. Overall, the discontinuance area for North Washington Street contains 226 square feet and approximately 16,667 cubic feet. I'll pull this up here. This is just the plan for the North Washington Street portion only. You can see here, it runs along North Washington Street until it meets with Valenti Way. That other companion case I mentioned we'll be back for new business. Will address this portion of the building over here along Valenti Way. Again, the reason we're here just on half of this is to hopefully appear before the BPA board next Thursday. So with that, I'll pause and take any questions or comments from the commission. Thank you.
Commissioners. PIC staff or members of the public?
All set on this.
All right, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on September 21st?
Yes, we will.
All right, excellent. We will see you back then. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
On to new business number 5, 1185 to 1203 River Street, 12 Central Avenue, Winthrop Street, Hyde Park, earth retention license on a petition by CCC River LLC. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what is being proposed?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, and PIC staff. Attorney John Fulgini. I'm here on behalf of CCC River LLC on this petition to install an earth retention system along parts of River Street, Central Avenue, and Winthrop Street. I'm joined this morning by Nathan Davis from H.W. Moore and Holly Grace from Benign Earth Housing. This request is to fortify the foundation and protect the surrounding property. This request is in support of the approved development of 100% senior affordable housing at low AMIs. This means 63 new units of senior affordable housing at Hyde Park in an area that is very much lacking in affordable housing. This application goes together with, it's a division of the neighborhood housing. I will now turn the presentation over to Nathan Davis from H.W. Moore to go through the details of this request, and we thank you for inviting us here this morning. Nathan?
Everyone in commission, Nathan Davis. I'm actually with McPhail Associates. I've been working with H.W. Moore to prepare these earth retention plans to share with the commission. Essentially, the project is going to require the installation of shallow footing foundations that are, 4 to 5 feet below the street levels. However, there's approximately 5 feet of additional fill below the proposed footing locations, which will require up to 10 feet of excavation below the street level. Therefore, we're proposing a supportive excavation system surrounding the building to retain the street grades. A portion of the excavation next to the abutting properties, the portion along River Street and Central Avenue, abutting properties up here, and a portion of Winthrop Street will have or require some amount of supportive excavation to install a proposed retention system up here. In general, the piles will be, the earth retention system will consist of drilled soldier pile and lagging system, approximately 24-foot diameter holes, generally less than 5 feet off of the property line. That really is only that much up on Winthrop Street. Otherwise, it's 3.5 feet, 3'8" is the back end of the piles from the property line. The piles will be cut off to the required 6 feet below grade after the foundation is installed and backfilled, and the grade will be returned and the sidewalk will be repaired. There are some tree wells along River Street, which will be protected during construction. The piles will be coordinated and the SOE system will be coordinated such that it doesn't interfere with the tree wells and retains the tree well in place. And as I mentioned, since the system will be cut down 6 feet below, it won't interfere with the tree wells in their permanent condition, so those can be maintained after construction. I believe H.W. Moore could speak to this more, but there is also a proposed permanent pedestrian easement within the property line. I'm not sure if Fred from H.W. Moore would have more to add on that.
That already came, Nathan, that already came before this commission and was approved several months ago.
So that's the overview of the system. Again, it's temporary SOE to really just to perform the excavation to natural material as it's required.
With the tree wells, has there been any coordination with the Parks Department and their Urban Forestry Division around the specifics of protecting the existing trees themselves that are located in those wells?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we went through a lengthy Article 80 process, which included Parks Department as well as the BPDA landscape architects to prevent that exact problem if any of this construction would impact that. We're also, in addition to doing this, when we came before this commission several months ago, we are proposing a significant amount of new street trees because currently they look like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. If you were to drive by, it's like just pretty much, withered away to nothing because of sanding and salting and things like that. Yes, but we've been working extensively with both those two groups.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if Google Street View is to be believed, at least one of the two trees is actually mature and healthy, and there's another much smaller and much more Charlie Brown-esque tree in that pit. But certainly keeping the one healthy tree in good shape is obviously important as you're doing this excavation so close to the tree root system.
And that is our intent, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions, comments?
Where are you with the public or BTD permitting and your CMP?
Holly Grace is on this call. Holly, do you want to respond to Amy Cording's question with respect to permitting?
Hi, I'm Holly Grace with the developer, B'nai B'rith Housing, and sponsor of the development. We have submitted through Howard Stein Hudson our construction management plan. There were a couple of rounds of reviews. We're waiting for final approval.
Do you anticipate having that prior to your public hearing?
We would love it. Howard Stein Hudson's been requesting it from BTD. So if you have any suggestions on how we can make that happen, we'd be very grateful.
Got it.
All right, any other questions from the commission? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
All set.
All right, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on September 21st?
Yes, we will.
All right, we will see you then.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to new business number 6, Brookline Avenue, Lansdowne Street, Boston proper, granted location on a petition by Vicinity Energy Boston Incorporated. The petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what is proposed.
Hey, good morning. My name is Dan Kennedy. I'm the project manager for Vicinity Energy. On the call with me today is RMF, Steve Buckler, who's the engineer on record, and some other folks from Vicinity that'll be supporting the project. Should share my screen here. So the Brookline Ave steam extension, I just want to start with some background information on Vicinity Energy itself. So we are a district energy provider in the city of Boston. The map here, the white line showing existing infrastructure. We have around 20 miles of existing steam pipe. And with the ongoing development in the city of Boston, we're looking to expand to serve some of these new commercial buildings. For this project, it's specific to the Fenway neighborhood. Just a quick overview of the Fenway expansion. The first phase starts over at Mass Ave, previously approved through PIC, and then it's at the end of Lansdowne Street. Phase 1 was about 3,000 feet. It's currently under construction, scheduled to be in service in Q2 2024. The second phase, which is the subject of this request for granted location, is another 700 feet down Brookline Avenue. It will be serving 109 Brookline, which will be an E-Steam customer. Quickly on E-Steam, so Vicinity has made significant investments in electric boilers. We have an electric boiler project that is currently being demoed over at Kendall Station in Cambridge, and that is on schedule. But at the end of the day, it's to utilize our high voltage transmission lines that are existing, our existing steam infrastructure, to provide an energy source for heating that is electrically based. And IQHQ, who's a developer here in the Fenway neighborhood, has signed up for E-Steam for 2 of their new buildings, both located on Brookline Avenue. So here is a plan view of the extension. The grayed out is the first phase that's currently under construction. We will be on Lansdowne Street this winter, installing that steam line. At this manhole here, we plan to connect and continue the 18-inch pipe down Brookline Avenue. Just to speak to some of the coordination and why we chose this location as the proposed routing. It really was a collaborative effort with the Red Sox and the other abutters, getting historical information. A lot of these buildings stick out into the street below grade and have a hollow sidewalk foundation. So avoiding that was a challenge and why we are where we are. There's also a very large culvert. That's a stormwater management culvert from the Muddy River that redirects the Muddy River down Brookline to dump into the Charles River. And that's a fairly large piece of infrastructure, NASA, BWMC. And that's why we're in the middle of the street here. It was the best spot that had the least impact to all parties and stakeholders. Continuing down Brookline Avenue, again, the location was well coordinated. We have one manhole that we are proposing to install generally at David Ortiz and Brookline Ave. We are coordinating with the developer for that parcel, which is WS Development. and making sure that we're not impacting them or their plans moving forward for the sidewalk street renovations that may go along with that development project. Generally, we come down the street here and have a manhole right outside of 109 Brookline where our service connection is. And again, to speak to the coordination, I have a section cut of the street. So this is generally where Jersey Street is. You can see that we have the hollow sidewalks on each side that we want to avoid. We want to avoid impacting any trees. And this block here in the middle is the Muddy River culvert. Probably the biggest coordination piece we had was a lot of discussion with Boston Water and Sewer. They have a 12-inch water line that we were going to impact, and we made an agreement with Boston Water and Sewer to replace their 12-inch water main for 500 feet along Brookline Avenue, just to ensure that, you know, we don't have the impact on their system, their customers, and they can allow us to, you know, share the street with them. Great to work with them, and I appreciate their time and effort that they put into coordinating with us to get to this point. So generally, that's the project. Any questions, you know, on first phase or this phase, I'm happy to answer. And that's about it.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
This one will need an approved CMP before, right, like this can make it any further. I know that you, right, Ed's back from vacation, so hopefully that can be wrapped up, but this one will need a signed and executed CMP.
We'll do, we have talked to Ed about this, but the ball is on our court to give something to him and you guys that will work moving forward. But we'll make sure we have that done for the next meeting.
Related to that, is the plan, assuming the approvals and timelines all happen, to continue the work that's currently underway along Ipswich and Lansdowne and simply keep digging as a contiguous project, or will there be an interim period where you stop work prior to continuing?
We will run concurrent, so the section on Lansdowne Street should be complete, but we will be working on Brookline and on Phase 4 at the same time, and hopefully the in-service date for providing steam to the neighborhood will wrap up around the same end date.
Got it. I know we just had some extensive discussions earlier this year about e-steam and your electrification plans, and so we won't rehash any of that in any detail here, but I did just want to check in briefly on the progress. I saw you had, if I recall correctly, 2024 still as the in-service date for your electric boilers, and did I see 2025 as an in-service date for your heat pump, your initial heat pump infrastructure? Are those dates correct? And any update that you would want to provide on just the progress that you're making here?
Sure, I can take that, Dan, and good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and friends, great to see you. Our timeline is right on. The e-boiler will actually be delivered in 2023, and this year in November. It'll take several months for it to be up and operational, so we'll be looking at late spring, early summer of 2024 that the e-boiler will be up and operational. Similarly, the heat pump. Since our conversation back in March, we've entered into a memorandum of understanding with MAN Energy. I'm actually heading out with some colleagues later this month to tour some facilities, so we do anticipate, not even anticipate, we will be able to make sure the heat pump will be delivered in 2026 timeframe.
Thank you very much. It's great to see that things are on track and that the heat pump piece is getting closer to real. So really appreciate the update and glad to see that work continuing. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
On your next project for St. Stephen Street, you were kind enough to add some city shadow conduit, and I know we need a little bit of work on that, but I don't believe that we've made the similar request for this line, understanding that telecom and steam don't always mix real well. It'd be great if you could at least look into adding some city shadow conduit along this route as well, so that we have that capacity in the future.
Sure, we'll take a look. It's not on the plans right now, but we get no issue ahead.
Great, thanks, Dan.
All right, will you be ready to come back in 2 weeks for your public hearing?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll see you on September 21st. And on to new business 7, St. Stephen Street, Gainsborough Street, Roxbury, granted location on a petition by Vicinity Energy Boston Incorporated. The petitioners please reintroduce themselves and give us an overview of this portion of the project.
Again, I'll be the project manager as well for the St. Stephen Street project. I have Ken Stanley with Trimont Engineering, who's worked with us in steam piping for a very long time. He will be walking you through this proposed granted location for the northeastern neighborhood and campus. So Ken, please introduce yourself and take us through.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for hearing us this morning. As Dan mentioned, Trimont's been supporting Vicinity's expansion throughout the city and operations for many years, and we appreciate the Commission's support through the process of all of these projects, so thank you again. The St. Stephen Street Extension Project is a project that will be expanding their system to bring on potential new customers on the St. Stephen Street and Roxbury area. More specifically, this project is to support Northeastern University's upgrade of their own district heat system on campus. So currently, Northeastern has started its phase 1 of its system upgrade. They actually started in Q2 of this year and will continue through Q4 of 2023. And that expansion process is underway. We're potentially, I'd say, about 2/3 the way there with regards to completing their phase 1. And the intention here is that Vicinity will tie into Northeastern's new Opera Place Steam District system. So it's very exciting things that are happening for the campus here, and Vicinity is certainly supporting it with high pressure steam and high temperature steam. Currently, the campus has low pressure steam and low temperature steam. So it's a much needed upgrade for the campus for operational consistency. So here you can see our alignment is tying into the existing 10-inch steam system on St. Stephen's in Gainsborough. In this area, we'll be tying into the middle of about the middle of the street here at Gainsborough, and then continuing down St. Stephen Street and onto Jarvis Place, entering the north lot of the Stetson housing area. St. Stephen Street in Gainsborough, of course, is public way. Jarvis Place is private way owned by Northeastern University. So in general, that's our locus map. Gives you an idea pictorially what we look like from an aerial photo perspective. So we've gone through the design process with Vicinity and with the university, as well as much coordination with Boston Water and Sewer. So Gainsborough Street, St. Stephen's to Jarvis, it's 460 feet, approximately of 10-inch steel main. We're using A106 grade B seamless steel pipe, standard wall thickness of 375. We have 2 inches of aerogel insulation wrapped in Alumiguard with 6 inches of concrete encasement around the carrier steam main, and we'll show you some details associated with that. We're also intending to install 460 feet of 3-inch steel condensate of the same grade, higher schedule, with insulation and Alumiguard for the condensate system. So these are standard design criteria for vicinity system currently. So we'll go walk through the alignment here, and we wanted to show you much detail. Again, this was a highly coordinated effort with Boston Water and Sewer. So our main goal here with the overall alignment is to find location that allows us to construct with the least amount of impact to utility services, but also vegetation and trees along the sidewalk area. And it's the reason for the crossings, the sidewalk locations, and crossing into the middle of the street. So we tie into Vicinity's line, the 10-inch main on Gainsborough Street. We cross over into the sidewalk area to be able to get room for construction and installation. And we follow that alignment down St. Stephen Street. You'll see anchors, guides, expansion joints needed to control the stress associated with steam systems. So as we follow along down the sidewalk, this is an open area where we have room for our supportive excavation and avoiding as many services as possible to avoid service relocations and/or interruptions. So we get to the angle point here where we cross back into the middle of the street, and we do that to specifically avoid changing all the services at the sidewalk level as well as impacted trees along the sidewalk. So by jumping out into the middle of the street, we get clearance from those impacts. Now, while we're in the middle of the street, it becomes very crowded again. So we're proposing and working closely with Boston Water and Sewer is to relocate and replace their existing 12-inch water main that was built in 1977, move it to the edge of our excavation to allow supportive excavation and room between the water main and the existing sewer so they can both be repaired and accessed with similar supportive excavation. So this was a much analyzed process as to how we would do this. And we came to this conclusion and solution with Boston Water and Sewer. So as you can see, we continue that methodology throughout the length of St. Stephen Street until we turn 90 to approach Jarvis Place at our endpoint where there's a proposed manhole for Northeastern's tie-in location for their new system receipt point. So again, we work diligently with Boston Water and Sewer to be able to find this solution and allow sufficient enough space between the existing utilities so they themselves could have space needed to do repairs on the water main, sewer main, as well as others. So we're showing you some cross sections here, how we went through that process of providing that appropriate separation between the utilities through the design process. So again, it was much discussion with Boston Water and Sewer. Again, we appreciate their support. Some of the details, these are standard construction details, gives you an idea as to what our facility looks like as we're installing it. Our steam main will be encased in concrete, which will also be wrapped in 2 inches of insulation, aerogel insulation, which is a high quality heat retention insulation material. This is a standard design process for Vicinity today. We've implemented this design process over the past numbers of projects over the past numbers of years. And we've got great performance on this material. We're also showing you, we do have a manhole in the, about midway through the alignment down St. Stephen Street. This is for a steam trap location to collect condensate water and manage it appropriately. The valving would happen at the, slide back a slide here. Valving would happen here, excuse me, at the manhole at Northeastern's property on Jarvis Place, and also on the upstream leg of vicinity system at an existing valve location. So this system can be isolated for repairs and whatnot. We've also included the detail that Todd had mentioned with regards to the shadow conduit. We've been asked to provide locations along the alignment where handholds might be located to access that shadow conduit. We intend to do that, as we're constructing and the trench is formed up, rather than show a specific location, we're suggesting that we spot out where those handholds might be, but allow the construction and trench arrangement dictate where the shadow conduit lie within the trench. So we'll know better as we get through the construction process what part of the trench profile that shadow conduit would lie. And of course, we would show that on an as-built drawing condition as well. Got a photo here that provides example of construction methodology, how this would work. Again, this is a similar dimension pipe. You can see the conduit, the concrete conduit being poured in place in the supportive excavation. So this would be a very similar process in which we would install this project. And that's our alignment. Thank you. We're welcome to take your questions.
Commissioners? I will ask a couple then, hearing nothing else. What is your plan for restoration of both the street and the sidewalk that will be impacted by this? And can we, as you have done in a number of your other projects, request curb-to-curb resurfacing for any street that may be impacted here?
Yeah, sure. So for the sidewalk locations, we will restore like new and do the pedestrian ramps per Boston's new spec. That's something we need to add to our package that Tom had requested, which we will do. For the street itself, currently we're planning on doing a permanent patch of the trench and having CIU and BTD review the trench and permanent patch, but not curb to curb milling and overlaying. Happy to have further discussions on that. As far as a cost goes to vicinity, it's not something we can really pass through to our customers. So it's a capital cost that hits the project directly. But again, we want to work with you guys and improve the public realm around this new street. So happy to have some further discussions as it relates to the curb to curb.
Okay, I think it would be worth us discussing between now and your next hearing, and certainly appreciate that not all of these costs are absorbable by your customers, but obviously, as you say, this does significantly impact the public realm in the area, and so we want to make sure we leave it better than how we found it as this project is installed and will be a place where you guys do business on our public right-of-way. Related to that and potentially more significant, the intersection of Gainsborough and St. Stephen, I see on your plans you had one curb ramp that you were intending to restore. Wondering about reciprocal ramps and the remaining fourth ramp of that intersection, and whether you could commit to providing a compliant pedestrian ramp at each of those locations. We typically don't like to do just one part of a ramp or one side of a crossing and not address the other sides as well.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'm fully understanding your question. We're happy to do, we got to rip up the sidewalk anywhere at the location we're proposing, so happy to put it back however the city would like it.
We're talking about the reciprocal ramps on the other corners. So if you're going to need to install a compliant pedestrian ramp on the corner where you are ripping up that you're showing on your plan, but right now there are not compliant pedestrian ramps on the other corners. So providing a ramp to get into the street but not to get out of it does not do anyone any good. So what we'd like to see is for you to do reciprocal ramps, and really that is because it's a full intersection. That means making sure that all four corners end up with compliant pedestrian ramps.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let us take a look at it. I don't foresee that being an issue. So,
okay.
And I will follow up with you to have a discussion. I don't think that is so much an issue, but we can discuss that and also the paving as well.
All right. And then thank you very much. And then the last question on that I had was one of the streetlights that I think you're showing here on St. Stephen, the first one kind of down from Gainsborough on the sidewalk area where your pipe is going underneath. That appears to be a Verizon small cell streetlight. So I'm just wondering if you've coordinated with them about whatever infrastructure they have connecting that streetlight. They may have fiber in addition to separate power coming in off the street. And so if you have not, can you coordinate with them and just address whatever impacts there are in your plans? It looks like your pipe is going directly underneath where their location is, so we just want to see where their conduit is located and making sure that that's addressed as part of this.
Their stuff is also way deeper than our streetlights, so if you're going under it, you're going much further than a standard streetlight.
Right. We'll do that. Jessica, we'll make sure that Verizon is aware and we have whatever information they can provide. We've got to them once already through the design process, but we'll go back to them to ensure that whether they have more information or not, we'll reach out and make sure we're coordinating with them.
Excellent. Those were all of my questions. Other commissioners, other questions? PIC staff or members of the public?
All set.
All right, ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks, provided we work through these issues?
Yes, we are.
Thank you for your time.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll see you back on September 21st.
Thank you very much.
All right, on to our final new business item, new business 8, 3371 Washington Street, West Roxbury, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by 3371 Washington Developer, LLC. Petitioners, please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what you are proposing to do.
Yep, good morning, staff, members of the public, and commissioners. My name is Matthew Zaroli. I'm a civil engineer, and my colleague Dylan Lammers is presenting the screen. We also have Allison Savage, who's the architect from UTIL, and Brian Goldson, who is the owner's representative from New Atlantic Development. The building being proposed at this site is a 5-story affordable senior housing facility. It'll have about 39 units, and we've already coordinated with Boston Water and Sewer for meeting their requirements for stormwater treatment. You can see some of the trench drains on the east side of the project. As far as the specific repairs, we are essentially, the main focus is closing an existing curb cut, reducing that curb cut and moving that D-stone west approximately 20-30 feet so that the entire frontage of the site will be a sidewalk. So it'll be an accessible sidewalk both within the 5-foot right-of-way in the street, in the sidewalk, the city property, and we're also going to extend, we're going to add a 2-foot pedestrian easement as requested by the BPDA and Disabilities Commission onto our property to match the neighbors. But that whole frontage will be existing, will be accessible concrete sidewalk. Additionally, we're going to provide permeable pavers along the frontage, the back of curb, along with a new tree box that you can see there for a new street tree, as well as a tree box on the east end to provide better coverage for the existing tree on site. And we were also going to work with the green infrastructure request to put sand under the structural sand under the proposed sidewalk so that the trees have a little bit more room to grow. And then other than that, we're just matching the existing curb line, and we'll be treating all the infrastructure in place as requested with the utility companies, maintaining the existing light pole, replacing the box cover for the handhole, the electrical handhole, and resetting the rim if needed for the electrical manhole that you see there, just adjusting that frame slightly. And that's our proposal.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
Yeah, my question's just about all of the notes on the plans that say for coordination only see landscape architecture plans. Right, everything that's approved here needs to be on a plan as proposed, not reference other plans, including the details. So whatever is going out here that is subject to a specific repair should just be specific repair plans and not refer to other ones.
Okay, understood. We'll update that. We'll incorporate those all into one set of plans and remove those note callouts.
Other questions, comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
No, all set. This one, appreciate the project team being flexible in what they're proposing here, and we'll expect to see that pedestrian easement plan in the next 2 weeks.
Roger that.
Great. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks?
Yes, sir, we will.
We will see you on the 21st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, and with that, I think we are at the end of our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you all very much. See you soon.